that your love for me is real. What would you say if I took those words away? Then you couldn't make things new just by saying I love you. La-dee-da, la-dee-da, da-da-da-da-da. More than words. La-dee-da, la-dee-da, da-da-da-da-da. More than words. La-dee-da, la-dee-da, da-da-da-da. More than words. La-dee-da, la-dee-da, da-da-da-da. More than words.
Allow yourself to relax and sink into your seat comfortably. Closing your eyes, exhale all of that's happened during the day, all of your worries, and release them completely from your body. As you inhale, inhale pure peace and relief that's present within the God in you. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Shifting your gaze to your eyebrow center, visualize an image of your home emerge in front of you. How perfectly, with perfect intention and precision, it was built. Every brick laid was put there intentionally for a perfect, specific purpose. A purpose of providing you with warmth, shelter, and protection. That God moved through every person who has worked on building your home. The construction worker, the painter, all the people involved in emerging this masterpiece. This masterpiece wouldn't be possible without God. It was God who moved through them perfectly. Even every imperfection that it may hold, it is God communicating to you. Do you not see how God is with you all the time? He guides you perfectly to empower yourself to be able to move through your false beliefs and patterns. He wants you to reach your home of peace in your heart. He is present in your neighbor, in that neighbor who annoys you. He is loving you into your perfection. He is present in the lady on the street, walking by, whom you may consider a stranger. But do you not see that it is He who exists within her? It is Him that you already know, intimately, very intimately. It's not possible not to know God, because He is the constant presence in every aspect of your life. He is the running active in the wires of your technological support. He is alive in every movement of the leaves. or every sound of a bird or a car honking. He is everywhere. God is a very real experience. He is present in your own presence too. Allow yourself to feel into that presence. Feel into the oneness of how you and Him exist. He is there very intimately through your twin flame. He is there to love you all the way to your own perfection. Allow yourself to relax and find immense relief that you are living in God. Let yourself rest in this safety of His eternal embrace on earth. Now, in your heart, make a choice now to only interact with God in people and objects, every aspect, every moment in your life. Choose to commit to being present with God as He is present with you, and He always has been and will be eternally. Let yourself ground into your daily activities, that every action you may take is with God. With this choice and commitment, with this eternal grounding, you may now open your eyes.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna Manalo. I'm a certified ascension coach and student of Jeff and Shalia Divine, and I'm so happy to be doing today's oracle card reading. Our card reading today is from Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light Oracle deck. Just really beautiful cards. Our first card is Boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? And you can see in the card, right in the center is you, or this figure, this sort of central energy right here, and she's got her arms up. She's saying no to all of the taking energy, all of the grabbing energy all around her. I love this card because this is exactly what I've been experiencing this week, and I imagine many of us have been, is accepting that you do need to put up loving boundaries. You need to put up compassionate boundaries to not necessarily protect yourself, because you are protected as a divine child of God, but to honor that protection and to respect that protection and to truly respect yourself, respect your time, respect your energy, and know that it's safe to put up boundaries. It feels really good to put up boundaries. It feels really strong in this place where maybe you once were weak, but it's okay. It's safe. Being a divine child of God does not mean being taken advantage of. It does not mean being abused. It means being loved and loving yourself so fully and so completely that you don't tolerate any crap. You don't tolerate any negativity, any meanness, any abuse, anything like that. So allow yourself to look at maybe places in your life where you could stand to put up better boundaries for yourself. And our second card is Awakening. Energetic upgrades. A new way of being, integration. I love this. So following from the last card, you'll start to notice when you do put up boundaries and you do start to respect your time and energy more, you can feel more of yourself pouring forward in this space where you previously were stopping the energy. So instead of this stopping of flow, now you have even more of yourself and even more God, even more love, even more of the good feeling. So it feels naturally like an awakening. So, good stuff. And our third card is trust your path. If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? And this is a really beautiful card too. It's kind of glossy and sort of beautiful everywhere. Sort of whatever path you choose, it's just beautiful. And all the way to this gorgeous structure here in the distance. Yeah, and I think we can all feel in our hearts, you know, everybody's sort of gorgeous structure within themselves, you know, kind of where you want to be or what your vision for your life is. Everybody sort of has that in their heart. Everybody can feel that in their heart. And this card is really encouraging you to trust that vision, to trust that feeling, trust that desire, and know that you are supported. God wants you to pursue your desires. God wants you to pursue your heart and what's in your heart, and know that you are supported, abundantly supported. I think I read a quote somewhere this week that if you take one step towards God, God takes like 1,000 steps towards you. So you can feel just in this card alone, like this desire to keep moving on your path and keep grounding into your path, because you are on the right path, you are supported, you are loved. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy this sermon.
Hi, I'm Lisi. I'm the Senior Executive Minister for the Church of Union. Really hope you enjoyed the service so far. This is our 4th Sunday service. As you can tell, we've got some great musical talent. Ishana is just wonderful putting the melodies together with her voice and her instruments. And you may recognize this week's song. And this song has been changed. The lyrics have been changed slightly. And Jeff has channeled the new version of these traditional pop songs to heal them. So to take what was previously existing in pop culture and to really slightly alter the meaning to be back into the original state of the soul who composed the original song. Back to God, back to love and to union, because a lot of today's love songs are about loss and heartache. But I just really love how Jeff really channeled God's perfect message through some of these songs that we have grown to love. And he's written up a beautiful message about these songs that you'll be able to see after service today on our website, unionism.org. And not only that, but we're going to start posting all of our music there. That they aren't original melodies, but they're renditions of the song that are more appropriate for unionism, and they really take you higher. It's said that music is the ladder to the soul, and these songs really take you higher and really just draw you closer to God. And that's what music should do. It shouldn't wear you out or drain you or get you high and then throw you down. So I'm just so happy that Jeff and Shalia are moving in this direction. They're always taking us further. I don't know about you, but I've just really enjoyed the services so far, and I hope you do too. Before I talk about what I want to talk about, and before we hear from Jeff and Shalia, I wanted to say that we are now accepting tithing donations. So that's a monthly contribution, and that's 10% of your income off the top. And why it's important to tithe is that you are actually giving, as you know, that Jeff and Shalia teach, and other spiritual practices teach this too, that giving is receiving. So when you give to God, God doesn't need your money, right? God has like limitless wealth, but it's actually a service to you to be able to give. That energy of giving is also receiving, and it restores the harmony to your abundance vibration. I know that I recently tithed. I had donated to the Church of Union myself, but I recently tithed, which is, I looked at all of last month's income and I took 10% of that and gave it the sum total of that this month. And I felt really good. And my finances felt purified, and I felt like I was partnering with God there. There's no obligation to do this. I'm just sharing my own experience. And also, your contribution, it does go towards expanding this teaching to the world. We really would like to own some better video editing software, a lot of production equipment that would make our services really nice. They're already great, but it would just really add some great quality to our services that doesn't already exist. Help building out the website, storage for the services online, and so on. And we might discover things that we'd like to do. We're going to put a lot of funds in a foundation to one day, the hope is to build or to have land or have an actual physical place for workshops. So there's a lot we can do together. And we have a board, the Church of Union Board of Directors, that all decide about where this is spent. And soon we are currently recognized as a nonprofit at the United States state level. And soon we'll have our 501(c)(3), so we'll be able to issue you a tax statement for donation purposes if you're contributing a large amount. So totally up to you. Just wanted to share my own personal experience and then let you know what the funds would do. And actually that leads into what I wanted to talk about was it's something that's related to Jeff and Shalia's sermon coming up. And that is the place where you feel separate from God. It's what they mention is a bit called helplessness. And that helplessness is the root of sin, missing the mark, and feeling like you can't help yourself. And so when we think about abundance and poverty mindset, and those seem to be polar opposites, poverty mindset or lack consciousness comes from feeling helpless, comes from feeling like you need your abundance to come from the outside, right? That's why tithing actually says to God, I have abundance. And it says to the universe, I have abundance and I'm giving it, right? And that energy you create in your own reality will come back to you. And it's not that you're giving to receive, but it's believing in the spiritual truth, coming back into alignment with the truth that you are abundant, that all your wealth is God's wealth. And it's like a testament to that truth in a sense. And so we are going to learn from Jeff and Shalia where or why we metaphorically lost our innocence and started feeling helpless, and started believing that we weren't, empowered and that we weren't responsible for our own realities. So I'm really looking forward to watching that again. I do preview all of the sermons ahead of time so that I can properly introduce them to you, and I don't give away any spoilers if I can help it. But it's so good, and I just wanted to say it's so lovely to hear from a very powerful, centered, divine feminine as our guru, Shalia herself, share all of these messages and to teach us in human times, in recorded spiritual history, there haven't been women who have been giving the spiritual talks, the sermons, as much as men, although they did, but recorded in history, it's been mostly men. And actually, Jeff and Shalia will talk about this disparity of men and women and empowerment a little bit. So there's a lot of juicy stuff in the sermon to come. I'm sure you're going to watch it now and watch it again. You'll learn a lot of new things I didn't know about the Hindu faith and the different periods of time that are taught there. So without further ado, I'll let you sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's sermon of Jeff and Shalia, starting with discussing paradise in the Garden of Eden.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Shalia. Welcome back to our Sunday service. I'm delighted to share with you the topic of today is going to be about the Garden of Eden, or what an overall theme is that of divine paradise. Where is it? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We're going to begin with our 3 opening ohms. Please feel free to join us. Take a moment and breathe that deep down into our hearts. And we're going to say our opening prayer.
Sounds good. Say it along with us aloud or in your heart if it feels good to you. I am the only child of God, forever part of Him. I am created by Him in perfection, and there I always remain. My mind is my sanctuary, where I keep His holy creation sacred. I will only allow in His voice. I will only accept His word.
Today, I will hear the word of God. I surrender myself to His teachings through His divine channel. I will honor what He has spoken and accept it as His will. I will be obedient to His word, for this is my salvation. In Christ's name, Om. Amen. Well, I'm going to get right into it because this is really exciting stuff, or very juicy stuff. So there is one overarching theme that has been discovered among historians and mythologists and people who really study religion and spirituality. And the one common thread or idea is that of a divine paradise. Some people have called it the Golden Age. In India, it's called the Yuga cycles. And it's basically this idea of, where we once came from, like a divine paradise, an oasis where everything is perfect, there's peace, there's no war. And then slowly over time, our consciousness fell and we're kind of in not paradise, a not very nice place or comfortable place to be in. Feeling like Adam and Eve cast out of the garden and having to live in a very hard world. So I'm going to, start with an opening passage that's going to, help set the tone for the sermon today. And it comes from the book, The Yugas. It's published by Crystal Clarity Publishers. It's based off of the teachings of Sri Yukteswar and Paramhansa Yogananda. The book is also based off of Sri Yukteswar's book called The Holy Science. Amazing read for those interested. So I'm going to read this passage. If you have this book, we're on page 164. And it says, the paradise myth most familiar to Westerners is the story of the Garden of Eden, where the first man and woman lived in harmony with nature. They needed no clothes, no shelter, no farms, no protection, and lived in peace and in close harmony with their Creator. There are hundreds of other traditions of earthly paradise. The Sumerians and later the Babylonians living in the Tigris and Euphrates River 6,000 years ago had a similar myth of an earthly paradise called Dilmun, where first man and woman dwelt in complete happiness. The Avestan or Old Iranian myth speaks of Yima's age, when there was no disease, no old age, no death, where sons and fathers looked equally youthful. The Egyptian tradition of paradise was called Zip Tepi, the first times, where everyone lived like gods. The Greek tradition of the Golden Age says that men lived without discord and war. The Taoist tradition in China speaks of a time when all mankind lived in a state of happiness. In the Vedic tradition of Satya Yuga, also known as Krita Yuga, it describes a time when all mankind lived in awareness of spirit, or they also lived in a state of truth and bliss. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Hopi speak of a higher age of surpassing harmony with nature. The native peoples of Central and South America, Asia, Australia, and Africa similarly describe a higher paradise age. So, paradise is the single most common mythic theme across all cultures and all people and all religions. So there must be something ingrained in our souls about this story. And it really comes down to answering the question of, where did we come from? Why are we here? And who are we in relationship to God and this idea of paradise? So I am going to reference the story of Adam and Eve. We're going to talk about that. And the beginning, what the word Genesis really means origin, or means like in the beginning. And where are we here? Yeah, okay. So basically, like, it talks about how we were once like in harmony with the world, but then we kind of slowly come into a destructive cycle. And, there's two very distinctive things that are said about people in the story of Adam and Eve. And it's one that, people were created in the image of God. And the second is that we were given dominion over like God's creations, but there's a difference between like having dominion over something versus having like domination. You can see how those two words may have got a little confused somewhere along the way, but we're gonna clear up this confusion. So we can see like throughout the story of Adam and Eve in the book of Genesis how in the beginning like God created the world. And the thing that's said quite a bit throughout this passage is that he created something and saw that it was good. And so he, obviously this means, because he created us, that innately we are good. And I believe we are only ever returning back to what is good, that we can't ever truly leave the divine we may just have an illusion that we did, and we're going to get into that here. So, if we're created in God's image, then really our actions should fit like what God's good intent is. And when humans help God's creations flourish and thrive, then we're clearly in alignment with God's intent. Because everything that God created is obviously meant to be good. It's meant to be in harmony. It's meant to be in peace and happiness. And so that's really our life purpose as his children, is to see these creations thrive and do well. And, if we distort what God's intention is into domination, then that kind of destroys creation, it diminishes life, and our actions are really counter to God's will for this world. And, we can, see that's kind of happening even now, like with this global warming issue. People are getting very concerned, scientists, commonsensical people can see there's something, kind of out of alignment here. But I think what we're really experiencing is a great realignment. So once God finishes, God finishes creating the world, creating the earth, God creates again, and he creates people, or man. It starts with man, that's what it says, and then, woman. And it's interesting that the word Adama means ground, and then the word Adam actually means man. So man came from the earth. And God gave us a name. And one of the reasons why, we're given a name is because it establishes a relationship. Meaning we're meant to have a relationship with the divine, and obviously we're meant to have a relationship with each other. Man and woman both received a name, and this is an important part of our experience. In the story of Adam and Eve, Adam goes around naming all the animals, naming all the plants, because he's choosing to have a relationship with God's creations here. So in this Garden of Eden, there is a tree of life, and there is the tree of knowledge. And the tree of knowledge is really about good and evil. And apparently God asked them not to eat of the tree of knowledge, that Adam and Eve can eat from anything in the entire world. Except for this, there was a limitation apparently, and we could not eat from this one tree. And I find it interesting that somehow, we perceived a limitation and didn't want to be limited. And so there was a serpent. That's, the way the story goes, metaphorical, of course, all of this, but it's pointing to a deeper truth of a serpent that tempted Eve to eat the apple of the tree of knowledge, and saying, that if she eats from it, basically, she's going to know as God knows, but without becoming God. And so she decided to eat from the tree to find out what is evil, what is good, what is evil. She had everything she could ever desire. But I think there was still something, some kind of curiosity, I suppose, why can't we eat from it, but before she eats from this tree, the serpent does tell her, if you eat from it, you will die, and you'll also have to you're gonna know, once again, you're gonna know as God knows, but you're not gonna become God. And so she took it, and she first experienced shame. Well, Adam also ate from the tree. She got Adam to eat from it. And, the first feeling they got was shame. And then that's when they realized that they were naked, and then they went to go find clothes, and they hid in the garden, hid from God. But I guess what I find really interesting at this point is how I feel like being naked was really a metaphor for feeling vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, they passed a judgment because they wanted to learn how to be separate from God, you know. And so they felt like this vulnerability, and then they felt shame for it. And I find that really interesting, that is really the first experience, first feeling of separation, or first thought of separation was shame. You got to be ashamed of something, I guess. I don't know. So anyways, God asks Adam and Eve, what happened, and the positive relationship that they had with God was now disrupted, and Adam blamed Eve, and she blamed the serpent. So it's funny how you go from shame automatically to blame. You can see a very clear pattern of no longer being responsible, starting the process of losing dominion over the planet, over God's creations. And now we're moving into the feeling of helplessness. So, and I found that interesting. You were telling me recently that in A Course in Miracles, it talks about that's the origin of sin, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the ultimate foundation of sin. It's helplessness.
The feeling of helplessness. And you can see how this story really depicts how that really first occurred here. So then God says, because that the woman and the man basically disobeyed God, or started to get out of order with God and move away from God's intention, that women's hostility towards the serpent will be ongoing, and the mutuality of men and women will give way to male domination. So you can kind of see, in a sense, that that's where we are even today, how there is still not harmonious relationships between the masculine and the feminine, although we can all clearly see that is in the process of healing. With the women's movement, for instance, we can see harmonious twin flame union, another really important thing that's been happening on the planet lately. And as the part about women's hostility towards the serpent being ongoing, clearly it's not about physical snakes, a physical. I have nothing against an actual snake, but I think in this instance, what's really pointing out is about what this women experience a certain hostility to just feeling this inner betrayal. But I just want to point out that at the time that this story was created, it was created in Kali Yuga, meaning the very the darkest age you can be in. And so you could see this as an attack on women, but it's really men and women are equal in the fall. It's not women are to blame for us leaving heaven or perceiving to have left heaven. It's completely mutual, hence why the mutuality of men and women have been hostile, and it even said here that it gave way to male domination, which is something that we have seen for quite some time, a patriarchal society, but not in a positive sense, more in a domination sense. So humanity's relationship with Earth is now affected from this act of separation, and it says that thistles and thorns began to grow on Earth. Earth became not as safe a place to live. And people will now have to work like hard labor until they die, and when they die, they're going to return to the dust upon which they were taken from. And so the story ends really when people know the difference between good and evil, and God recognizes the difference between knowing what is good and evil and like doing what is good. So, I feel like that's a really important point to make, that that's when your return is complete. Like your return to God is complete. It's not just knowing like what is truth and what is in divine alignment and union with God, but actually like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can say I love you, but do your actions really and your beingness, do they really follow through on the words? So God knows in this story that people's goal is to ultimately return to that place of immortality, that paradise. And for some reason he bans them from the garden, or not for some reason, he bans them, puts a boundary and hires an angel to protect, the gates and prevent them from returning. But this Adam and Eve story is really set at the dawn of time, and it's really designed to shape the perspectives of our life and the world as it is now, and shows the contrast between like God's good intentions and people's actions. And really, like, once again, the importance of, it's our life purpose, or we're created to not just like take care of the earth, but to really grow and see God's creations thrive, and how men and women are partners in that work. So you can see like how, even for instance, a dog groomer is someone who is helping thrive, like God's creations thrive, or someone who is like even a programmer and moving technology and science forward. Well, God created all of that, and so this is really their job of seeing it thrive. And I mean, everyone's life purpose is really geared to thrive on God's creations. And so it's really important to recommit our vision, or God's vision of what he intends for us and intends for life to be. And I just want to point out, like, at this point, how eventually, like, we do go back to God, and we have to go back to God. That no matter what age you're in, like, I'll share with you, in this book, The Yugas, they talk about, I think there's four cycles, 4 yugas, and the lowest point, let me find, is the Kali cycle, which ended in the 1700s, which is about the time the Renaissance occurred. Science became official, and really, like, people's level of awareness began to increase, and people started to think of themselves as like a conscious being. And someone, like, ignorance was starting to be lifted, and people were beginning to learn to read and write again. The Dark Ages, like, I can't tell you how many book burnings occurred. Like the Great Library of Alexandria, thanks to Alexander the Great, was destroyed. Many other libraries were destroyed. The library in Great Egypt and all around the Mediterranean, in China. China at one point burned all its books. They're just like, to hell with it. We're done. We're just gonna not be responsible, I guess. So, it's really just been about the descending and then the rising again. And so there's the Kali, there's the Dwapara age, which is what we're in right now. And this is about energy. This is about starting to become aware again, understanding that there is willpower, that there is a consciousness, that the beginning of the understanding that you create your reality based off of your belief system, based off of your thinking. And then after that, there's the, I hope I'm saying this right, the Treta or Treta cycle, and then Satya, which is like would be the golden age. So it goes from material age to energy, mental, and spiritual. And most major religions were created during the time of the Kali Yuga. There was Christianity, there was Islam, there was Buddhism. All came from the Dark Age, to really help pinpoint that our goal is to once again go back into this age of enlightenment. And indeed, like, that's who we are as divine beings. Like, we're not meant to be in this low state of consciousness. We're not supposed to be like killing each other, and we're not supposed to be living in discord and disharmony. Our earth is supposed to be thriving and a beautiful paradise. And there's many spiritual powers that we're meant to have, and that we do have, if they're uncovered and nurtured and are done in the name of God. So eventually we will return back to this paradise. You can go back there sooner rather than later by doing your inner work and advancing your own consciousness. And I just want to say as well, like, you can wait it out if that's what you want to do. If you're born in, many people watching have had lifetimes in the Kali Yuga cycle, and your life was probably very, very hard and difficult and painful. But if you look at your life now that we're in the Dwapara cycle, your life is a lot better because of the consciousness of society and the current consciousness of the planet. It's a big difference. And so you can just imagine, well, what if, what is your life going to be like when you're born in the Treta age, or the next age, which is the year 3900. So you can see, like, eventually, like, you will attain it. Not even by your own hand, really. But you can attain that consciousness by your own hand and really, like, hasten this process. But I want to trigger an ancestral memory in you that you come from a time where there were no such thing as cycles. Cycles were born out of this act of separation. And the reason why a lot of these major prophets and religions were created during Kali Yuga, or the Dark Ages, is to really snap us back out of that consciousness and to forever remain in a pure state in heaven, or in the Garden of Eden, or this idea of paradise. Like, all our hearts know that, what is good and what is wrong. Like, there is, like, we're innately built in with this knowing. And so as you choose to purify your consciousness, then you really do become a bodhisattva, and you help purify the worlds. And, like, you just imagine all the most enlightened people on the planet start to get together, and naturally this peace expands everywhere. Like, it's already been proven. I think it was the transcendental meditation people that groups of people that, like, meditate in urban areas, the crime reduces, and it's really cool. There is that concept out there, and I know it's true because your thoughts affect reality. It creates reality because your thought form is an energy. And that energy, with its will and intention, it does something. And this is where science comes in, and science is very interesting because it really does go hand in hand with religion. And where religion has been backwards in some ways, like, it will get caught up in that. It will get proven that this idea of living in a paradise and what that means, like, not having to, you would wear clothes, like, you don't, the people,
I think it's a metaphor for embodiment.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like, it's a metaphor for embodiment. because even physical or non-physical, you're still a sexual being. So, but you're right. It is about embodiment. And I feel like maybe would you like to add to this conversation about moving into like a higher place?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, the whole Adam and Eve story, it is an entire metaphor. You don't, like, this isn't exactly how the fall took place, or, the fall of your consciousness. It's just a metaphor for what happened. And what happened was a fall of your consciousness and an embodiment into a physical plane. Because this metaphor of not having to wear clothes, not having to farm, like, this is all just a metaphor for living in a pure conscious state without a physical body.
And we can see how even Jesus proved how you can like manifest like out of thin air, or Sai Baba would like walk around with coins and gifts and he'd just come out of his hands, in India. And so you can look at examples of people like that and know, and like saints, many saints, like they're really pointing to a higher truth, that's how we're meant to be gods and live like gods, because we are.
And the only reason that you don't live like that is because of a fall in your consciousness. And all you need to do to return to your perfectly divine state is to purify your consciousness.
Exactly. So there are many ways that you can do this. We personally teach the mirror exercise as a way of cleansing your consciousness and raising your vibration. There are many other spiritual practices that do this as well. And so I encourage you to find what really works best for you. We have found the mirror exercise to be the fastest way of purifying our consciousness. And
the mirror exercise combined with the twin flame journey.
Combined, yes, thank you.
Because
I was about to say that, yeah.
If you're doing the mirror exercise for the purpose of purifying your consciousness, of attaining harmonious union with your twin flame, your harmonious union arrives naturally as a result of your spiritual mastery. When you have mastered this tool called the mirror exercise to the extent that you can take it to the next level, well, God brings you very gently and naturally and easily your harmonious union, which is the next level of that tool.
Exactly, and you'll see how that's once again you realigning your consciousness to God's intention of you being in a harmonious partnership, with your divine counterpart, living your life purpose. So I think we can do our closing prayer.
Surely.
Yes.
Very good. So if you'd like to join us in this closing prayer, you can follow along in your heart or aloud. Let's begin. Father, I accept your word into my heart. I will honor your will in my life and will follow you without hesitation anywhere you ask. I know you guide me into your heart where I belong. I accept that you are everywhere and your teaching is in all things. God, I know you provide me with clarity in this teaching of union, that I may be forever in union with you.
I accept that you are in me as you are in my brother. I will not deny my brother your word, and will share your teaching with him in any way you ask, and only as you ask. For when I share my salvation with him, I fully claim my salvation and return you with him. In Christ's name,
Om. Amen. Speaking this prayer in your heart means you have accepted that you are on the path of awakening to your true divine nature. This is what it means to be a unionist. Follow the teachings of union with God wherever you find them, and purify your consciousness into perfect union with your Creator. Now let's finish up with our 3 Oms.
let's do that. Please join in if you feel.
Peace be with you.
Shanti.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed today's sermon, please visit unionism.org to find all of the music that we'll be posting there and the readings from today's sermon, the books that Shalia read from, as well as the prayers written out are there, and information about unionism and our past services are all posted there as well. And don't forget to donate or to tithe to the church. You can find the button to do that at the top of the website, and your contribution will not only be sending a message to the universe that you're abundant, but also this will help the church to expand this message of union and unity throughout the entire world. And so your contribution really helps to do that. Thank you. And also, if you'd like to join us for a quick after church tea, visit twinflamesuniverse.com/forum, and you can find the after church tea open forum topic and come chat about some of the things that we learned about today. Thank you very much again for coming. Lots of love and many blessings in your week.